Jen, and I'm here to share a process video with you. This one is inspired by Mercy Tiara, aka Tracy Banks' Take 10 Textures class. This class is an awesome class where Tracy shows you a bunch of different ways to add texture to your layouts. And so based on the things that she showed in the class, I've pulled a bunch of items from my stash that I'm going to incorporate on this layout. We'll see if I incorporate all of them or not, but I'm just excited and eager to play with all of these different textures, and it's just, the class was such a good reminder to me of what I have available to me. So I have a die, which is a fringe die, which fringe is a good way to add texture. I'm going to actually try that with felt, so we'll see if that works out or not. I also have some embossing folders from We Are Memory Keepers, and these are like next level embossing folders. They have different dimensions to them, not just the poked out part and the pushed in part, but the levels in between too. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet, but I thought I would try that with transparency, but I'm also going to try it on vellum because I don't know if it will work on the transparency. So I have that. I have a stencil, and I'm planning on pushing some heavy body acrylic paint through it. This is medium magenta. And then I also have some cheesecloth. I have some paper flowers. I have some other transparency sheets, some chipboard, and then this is some pattern paper that I'm planning to use the wood grain for my background. These are some photos taken on Thanksgiving when my daughter was 10 months old, so they're pretty old, but I'm going to use these today. I just thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different and to do a little throwback. And so I think what I'm going to do is concentrate most of my texture in this band across the top and leave this a lot open, because when you do a lot of interesting work, it can get overwhelming if you do it all over the place. So that's kind of my goal and my plan. I may add some sequins as well. I just spotted these sitting here on my desk, and some of these might work really well for this, so we'll see. But that's where I'm going to get started, and I'll talk you through my process. So I'm going to start by just trimming off the branding strip on this piece of paper. And like I mentioned, I'm going to keep everything kind of toward the top of the layout. And so what I'm wanting to do is some mixed media behind my photos, and I'm going to cut my photos down just a little bit because there's some extra space that doesn't really need to be showing, and I want some space on the sides of my photos. They're 4x6, but I want them to overlap slightly and then have some space on the sides. So I'm using this stencil. This is an older Dear Lizzie stencil with some of that Liquitex heavy body acrylic paint, and this is a magenta color. I'll leave a link to the exact color below because I can't remember exactly what it's called. But I'm just using a palette knife and kind of forcing that through the stencil. Now this stencil is kind of a reverse image, so you get a lot of paint there, and I love the way that ended up looking. You can see how pretty that is. I didn't want to waste the paint on the other side of it, and so I'm using the stencil now as a stamp on a piece of white cardstock. I wish I could just actually staple that stencil to the white cardstock because I love the combination of that light pink and this kind of bright fuchsia color. But I'm just kind of stamping that down. It didn't give a whole lot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz it with some water and stamp it again onto the paper. And I'm kind of lining it up. It's not exactly right, but that's okay. And pressing it down again, and I get a little bit more, and I'll save that for another project. So I cleaned off my stencil, and now I'm ready to, I let my background dry, the paint dry, and now I'm kind of getting ready to layer up some of these interesting textures. So I pulled a book page from I had it in my scrap bin, and now I am cutting some of that cheesecloth, and I'm just trying to layer up some interesting textures, and you'll notice that all of these layers are neutrals, and I think that something that's a good idea is when you're doing a whole bunch of different elements to keep to just a couple of colors and then use the rest neutrals. So the colors that I'm sticking to are kind of that pink color and then also this aqua blue. So I'm using that die to cut out some fringe from some felt, and this is a really pretty light blue color. Now because the felt is so fibrous, I did have to snip some of the pieces of the fringe because I used such an intricate die. I did have to use my scissors and just kind of snip some of those because the fibers were holding together, but it cut really nicely. I was impressed. So I'm going to plan on kind of putting that underneath my two photos in the center. And so it won't go all the way across the photos, but it just go across the bottom. And so I'm going to just lay that there for a second while I'm kind of deciding what else to do. So I mentioned at the beginning that I had some embossing folders and I wanted to try embossing some plastic as well as some vellum. So here I have the plastic that's going to go through. I couldn't remember what setting that I needed my embossing folder to go on, and it felt like it was going to break, but you know, sometimes it feels like that and it's really not going to break. So I'm just playing around with my machine to remember how I'm supposed to do this with an embossing folder. So you can see that plastic, and you can see kind of the details of where it pushed in the paper, but it's not like a piece of transparency, which it actually kind of turns a white color when you emboss it. So I decided to do some vellum, and I like that more, and so I'm going to just use the vellum instead of that transparent piece. Plus that piece was super shiny. I didn't love it. So I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put this, and I decided that since I had the book page on the right side that I would put the vellum on the left side. And in the end, you're really only going to see just a little tiny hint of the vellum, but it ends up looking good, and I still like that I added it. So now I'm kind of thinking, what else do I want to do here? I think I better get my title ready to go. And so I found these Felicity Jane chipboard alphabets that are from a past kit, and they kind of match that blue color, and I'm going to have the title be Toss Me, and funny little nod to Arrested Development if anybody's seen that movie. I mean, not movie, the TV show. Anyway, moving on. On the book pages at the bottom, I just outlined the words bursting with pleasure, which happened to be on the book page, and I wanted to keep that on my layout because definitely my daughter was loving being tossed back and forth between my husband and his brother. This is on Thanksgiving while we were waiting for dinner to be cooked. They were just kind of tossing her back and forth. She was 10 months old, and so just really funny and really cute. So I'm going to staple my layers together now that I have them arranged in a way that I like so that they can stay, you know, the way that I like. And now I'm going to arrange my photos and see exactly how I want to place these. So I'm going to make the photos overlap in such a way that they go beyond the edge of the book paper and beyond the edge of the vellum. So it's just poking out the top and bottom of each photo, if that makes sense. And so I'm just using some foam adhesive to pop up the photo that's overlapped on top of the other one. And I get that you can get that in any craft store, but I got mine at Walmart, and it's super inexpensive. I think it's something like $5 for 60 sheets, but I'll link to where you can buy it on Amazon as well. So just getting that stuck down with some double-sided tape from Thermoweb, and now I'm going to kind of shove this little felt piece up underneath both of those photos. And it's not going to go in a straight line, it kind of curves, and I'm totally cool with that. I kind of like the way that looks, and so I'm just kind of shoving it up in there, and then I'm going to adhere that later after I get some other things worked out for my layout. So now I'm just going to put my title on, or think about how I want to put this on, and I'm trying to decide if I want to overlap it on the photos or not, and I can't decide, so I decide to go ahead and glue down the felt. I'm using some Scotch Quick Dry adhesive in a fine line bottle. Those bottles come empty and you can put whatever glue you like in them. So I have one that has this Scotch Quick Dry glue, which I use for paper and different kinds of elements, and then I have a mixed media glue from Thermoweb that I use for sequins and enamel shapes and stuff like that. It works really well for that. So just putting my title down here, and it's kind of overlapping the book page and the cheesecloth, and I'm trying to make it kind of straight. It's not exactly, and that's okay. So I also have these Maggie Holmes kind of paper flowers, and I'm thinking about playing around with those. And in the meantime, I am going to do something that I've seen Arit Landgraf doing lately, which is kind of doodle on my background. So I'm kind of going with my white Jelly Roll pen around the parts of this layout that have like the stencil areas, and I'm adding in some doodled leaves. And I'll insert a photo here so that you can see that, what exactly a close-up photo of what I'm doing. But I'm just kind of outlining these pieces and then adding in some of my own leaves, and it's a very subtle detail, but things like this add texture to a layout as well. So it's just another element of like, it's all about the details really on this layout. So I've got just little peaks of things and really subtle kind of things like the cheesecloth and the vellum, you just get really a little hint of those. And even the book paper kind of blends into the background, and so does this kind of white doodling. But when you look at the layout and kind of drink it in, you get all of these beautiful details. And this is something, and this is what Arit said too, it's hard to stop or to know when you have enough. But I just kind of played around until I felt like I had what I wanted on there, and I think it turned out really nice. So I'm glad I did that. I think I'll probably do that again. And I really like the white pen. So now I'm going to play around with these cute girl stickers from Crate Paper to see if there's anything that I want to add to the layout. And I really like this sticker that says the happiest girl in the whole wide world, but it's like a square and it's large and clunky. What I decided to do, there's a little open space like the ceiling in the photo of the right, the photo on the right. So what I'm going to do is cut this sticker up into little strips, and I'm going to place it along the ceiling in the right photo. And I'm putting it on some wax paper first because I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work or if it's going to work. And so I want to do that first just to make sure. So I'm just cutting it up, and I thought for a second that I would left or right justify this so that it was all of the little strips ended on the right hand side of the photo, but I decided to actually center it because it looks better. There's a heart. You can see the pieces that are white, they make a heart. And so I decided to just center it. And I really like what that adds to the photo, and that's going to help me determine where some of my embellishment is going to go, and it's going to go next to that sticker. So I will have 3 areas of embellishment, one to the left of the title, one to the right of those letter stickers I just put on the photo, and now I'm trying to decide where my third one's going to be. And I thought maybe I would put some of these word strips to the left of the bottom photo, or to the left of the left-hand photo. But then I found this chipboard piece that said Silly Smiles, and I thought that was perfect, and I like the way it looked in the center of the 2 photos. So that's where my third area is going to be. And I ended up adding a little word sticker that says hello. That's from the sticker sheet, not the chipboard sheet. So it says hello Silly Smiles, and I think that's cute. So now I'm just trying to decide what else I might want to include. I like these little sketchy hearts, and so there's a couple on the chipboard sheet, and then I'm going to find one on the sticker sheet as well so that I can place one in each of the little areas and of embellishment. And I'll kind of play around with the placement of those a little bit more. And now I'm going to get these little flowers stuck down, and they do have some adhesive on the back of them, so I'm just trying to peel that off and to kind of decide where I want to go with this. And really truly in the end, I'm not sure about the flowers still, but it was, I mean, they're cute and they're fun, and I like it well enough that I'm not going to change it. But I really liked that the bright pink flowers kind of matched, even though they're a little bit pinker than that kind of purpley pink magenta in the background. They kind of bring out that bright pop, and I like that. So they're going to go on. So in the right cluster, I added 3. In this bottom, or the cluster between the photos, I put 2, and then I'll end up putting just 2 next to the title as well. So I don't think that they all need to have the same amount. I probably could have put just 1 in one of them, so it kind of had 3, 2, and 1, but you know, just kind of playing around until it looks good enough to my eye, and that's what matters. So I'm going to play around with a little bit with the placement of those hearts, and I think they're in a pretty good place right now, but I'm thinking I need something else that is a different element to include in those clusters as well. So I'm thinking about the sequins, and then I thought maybe I need to add a little strip of paper or something between, you can see there's a tiny bit of space under the title Toss Me and the photo, and I just decide that it's okay. So I just leave it. I went to my typewriter, and somebody asked me what kind of typewriter I had. It's an old, like from the 50s or 60s, Royal typewriter, and I just typed up my journaling, and it says, "The look on her face says it all. Malia was absolutely delighted to be tossed back and forth between Uncle Thomas and Daddy. This was while we were waiting for Thanksgiving dinner." And then I just put 2006, 10 months old. So when I'm going back to photos like this, I remember this happening, and you can, like, the photos jog my memory as well, but I don't have as much to say. So there's just a few journaling strips, and I wanted to include her age. When they're so little, I like to do that because they grow so fast, and in just a few short months. So 10 months was important to note on there for me. And now I'm kind of thinking that I need something else that the journaling strips are very white, and I made sure to put them below that word that I circled in the book page so that you can see that too. And so I decided to pull out my Tim Holtz little chit chat stickers here that I'm going to place a couple on top of the journaling. And I found one that says "Be fearless," and "With brave wings she flies," and I thought that was kind of funny. And it mimics the journaling at the bottom, so I think it works out really well. So that is pretty much going to finish this off. I add a couple of little enamel hearts that bring in another element of blue to each cluster, and those are from Bella Boulevard. And the last thing I'm going to do is sprinkle some black velvet Heidi Swap color shine in each one of the little cluster areas, and that is going to finish this layout. So I have a bunch of still photos coming up so you can see all the details of the textural elements that I added on this layout. And please don't forget to head over to mercytiara.com to check out her class Take 10 Textures, where she shows you lots of different ways and ideas of how to include texture on your layouts. And it really jogged my memory, reminding me the things I had in my stash that I could use to add texture, and just some different techniques that are really fun. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.